The EBN Entertainment Broadcast Network presents, live from Chisel Multimedia Studio, the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show. Here's your host, Chris Massey.
Hey everybody, I am Chris Massey and welcome to the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show here on the EBN Entertainment Broadcast Network channel. We're coming to you live tonight from our Chisel Multimedia Studios here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Matt Roberts. Matt, we okay over there?
All good.
Everything's looking good now. Very good, very good. All right, so let's see what's happening. You know, all of us at one time or another have said, you know, I've seen it all and I've heard it all. And in today's world we live in, that is something that you just shouldn't say, because no matter what you've seen or what you've heard, it doesn't take long for something to top it. And here's a prime example. Last week in New York, a 41-year-old female employee of a courier service won a $3 million lottery. Now, this story sounds good, right, Matt? Sound like a good story so far. Well, let me tell you what happened. She went into work the next day, and her boss came back from lunch and opened up his door and found this woman on his desk defecating on his desk. Okay? Now maybe it's just me, but I mean, I can understand going into work and, you know, telling a few people to kiss your ass or cussing a few people out or maybe even slashing some tires in the parking lot. But I think that defecating on someone's desk is stepping over the line. And apparently the New York police also thought it was stepping over the line, and they arrested this woman. Now I'm going to read you a couple quotes that I got here. First from the manager and then from the woman. The manager states that he came back from lunch and noticed that his door was slightly open and something was wrong. Now, this is the first thing that I find odd. I mean, if I was going to defecate on somebody's desk, I think I would close the door. Matt, wouldn't you close the door?
Yes, sir.
I think I would. I think I would need a little privacy to pull this thing off. He then says, and I quote, "As I entered my office, I saw her squatting over my desk like a hippopotamus." Now, I kind of think she was a large woman, using that adjective right there, you know. He then goes on to say that a dark monkey slime substance was coming out of her rear end, landing on his desk like a Play-Doh fun factory. Now, I'm not making any of this up. Now, that's a pretty odd use of words there. The woman went on to say that when she won the lottery Friday night, she started planning this. According to her, she spent the whole weekend eating Mexican food and not going to the bathroom. She said, and I quote, "By Monday morning, I was gingerly walking around like a death row inmate trying not to explode." Then, of course, she said, you know, what you would expect her to say, "I've been taking shit off this guy forever, and now he's going to take some off me," literally, okay? Now, the thing about this is that the woman got arrested, and you know, I don't know what she was charged with. I mean, you can use your imagination here. And, you know, she's not going to stay in jail long. She's going to get fined, probably probation, maybe some community service, and I would think that a psychological evaluation would be in order as well. But when it's all said and done, she's still going to have $3 million. What about her boss? What did he get out of this situation? He gets to drive home that night and think to himself that somebody hates him so bad or thinks so little of him that they would be willing to take a dump on his desk and risk going to jail. Wouldn't you like to have been a fly on the wall when he got home that day and he walked in the door and his wife walks up to him with the customary, "Hey, honey, how was your day?" Now, what are you saying in an instance like that? And not to mention the humiliation from all of the coworkers. I mean, there are going to be numerous jokes going around the company about what happened. And this is not going away. In the words of the great Franklin Delano Roosevelt, this is a day that will live in infamy at this company. No matter how long this company exists, people will be talking about the day that this woman took a dump on his desk. People will come and go. They will go to other jobs, and they will tell this story, and those people will tell that story. You know, if this guy had the right publicity, you know, this could be something that would be brought up at management seminars all across the country. Hell, he could even end up on late night talk shows. Dare I say, even have his own Wikipedia page. You know, hell, you never know. And what about that young lady that comes in there to apply for a job after all this has happened, to take the place of the woman that did the dirty deed? How long do you think it's going to be before somebody in that company comes up to her and says, "Oh, I know who you are. You're the one with the shittiest job in the company. All right." We got Video Spotlight tonight with the Heathen Girls, and later on we have Mr. Doug Keys here. We'll be right back. was the Heathen Girls in Dark versus Light. In the summer of 1980, I was 18 years old, and I was the lead singer of a punk rock band in Atlanta called The Mistakes. And we had done a couple of shows at the ballroom, and I remember when our manager called us and said, I got you guys a Friday and Saturday night with the Heathen Girls at the 688 Club. How excited we were to get to share the stage with this great band. You know, there were a lot of bands that did get signed between 1980 and about 1992 in Atlanta, and there were some great bands that did not and should have, and the Heathen Girls certainly were one of these bands. Their sound was right in line with what was being pumped out on airwaves from coast to coast, 1981, 1982, and on MTV. You know, Rose Whipper was a beautiful girl, and she had those silky smooth, sexy vocals to go along with the great songwriting of Mark Stowe, and they were just a fabulous live act. That song there, Dark versus Light. They also had a song called 3 Years Too Late that wound up on one of the 96 Rock home cooking records and did receive some airplay on 96 Rock. It was one of the, in my opinion, the best song on that album, but it did not get the airplay that some of the other groups got. You know, I don't know what happened, why they didn't get a deal. I feel certain that they were looked at, but eventually they broke up, and I'm not real sure what they're doing now. I was told that Rose Whipper now lives in California, and I believe Mark Stowe still lives here in Atlanta. So that was it for the video spotlight tonight. One of the great Atlanta bands, the Heathen Girls. When we come back, we will have Doug Keys. Stick around.
Around
watching Michelle Malone and her band performing the old Elvis tune, Hound Dog, there at the Velvet Note in Alpharetta. And that great sounding guitar you were hearing on that clip was from my guest tonight. He is one of the busiest guitar players in Atlanta. Of course, he plays with Michelle Malone, and when he's not gigging with her, he's playing with Steven Skipper and the Street Fighting Band, and he also finds time to play with the Rock and Roll Animals, who do a little Lou Reed tribute. They play around town every now and then. And in between all that, he still finds time to be the owner and operator of Musicology, a music school in Noonan, Georgia. We're so glad to have him here tonight on the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show, Mr. Doug Keys. Come on in, friend. Good to have you here, man. Have a seat. Pull it on up. Nice thing everybody said about me all day. Well, that's what they pay me to do. That's what I gotta say.
You could write those things down. I'd be happy to take that. That'd be great.
Well, you'll be able to let somebody be able to see it on the show.
That's right.
You know.
There you go.
All right, Doug. So we were talking, and you told me you moved to Atlanta when you were about in second grade, and you were living over there at somewhere off of North Druid Hills, because you said you went to Briarcliff High School.
I did. I went to Briarcliff. We were the class that every year they threatened to close the school if the Smiths moved. They got 3 kids. That's going to put us under. Oh no, they're not leaving. We're going to stay here.
I got you. Well, I had some awful good times in that Adams Stadium over there when I was growing up. Sure did.
Well, you were at Tucker, so you.
I was at Tucker. Yes.
Beat our tail every year.
And but it seemed like y'all beat us in baseball or basketball.
I don't imagine we beat anybody in anything.
But football, that was one we circled on the calendar every year. Now you told me that you were about what, 12 when you started playing guitar?
Yeah, I started in 7th grade.
7th grade.
Whatever that is.
Okay, and you said that came pretty easy to you.
Yeah, I had 2 cousins that our moms were all sisters, and so we would spend the weekends at each other's houses, and one of the cousins had a guitar before me, and I would go mess around with it and lay it on the bed. It was electric. It was a Red Baron, and he had a Univox amp, and I'd lay it up there, and I didn't know how to play it, and I would just play the open strings, and then I got a guitar of my own the next year, and I think because the 3 of us hung out and tried to play all weekend, and we were terrible. We didn't know that, but within a few months we were less terrible.
I got you.
So
well, now I'm a firm believer in this, and as many guitar players, great guitar players as I've interviewed, and bands I've played in with good guitar players, and as little as I play, that. You know, people say you just need to practice. Well, you know, if it was just practice, there would be a lot more musicians than there are, because there's a lot more people that want to play than do play.
Sure.
I mean, I believe that. So you agree that there's something that clicks in your brain, that you get your fingers to move, you understand what you're doing, and that makes practice fun.
Yeah, I think. I hate to practice, and I always have. So.
Right.
But I really wanted to play well, and I think a lot of it is the crew that you're around, and that. So I had these 2 guys. We immediately had a band, so we had something to do. And then within a couple of years, I was lucky enough to play with some guys that were really good and were older.
Right.
And I wanted very much to not get fired.
I got you.
And to hang with the big guys.
I got you.
So
But you still you'll be riding around and you'll hear something on the radio and you can see it in your head the way it needs to be played. And you got to come home and pick that guitar up and make it happen.
I woke up one Sunday morning in the last year and a tune in my head, which doesn't happen all the time, and I had to get up and go sit on the porch and figure it out. So I thought, I've got to do it, and I did. And,
I got you. Okay, now, so as you got into your early 20s, you were playing in a band in Atlanta that was making a good bit of noise called The Pulse.
We were. That was our first kind of college band, and we played Margaritaville and the Point and the pub.
I remember hearing y'all advertised on 96 Rock.
We got some attention there.
Y'all played over at y'all played Green's Rock and Roll Night over there at Green's Lounge, right?
Gosh,
that's where I knew I heard that.
Yeah, we did that. That was a big night. Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah.
That was our, that was coming of age band.
I got you.
And Rob Aldridge, that later was in Holly Faith, and I are still big pals, and we were in that band together, and it was, we were babies, and
I got you.
Learned about everything together.
Okay. Well, and you were telling me that you're a big Bruce Smith fan.
Oh, yeah.
And like Swingin' Richards,
yeah.
And a lot of people do. And Bruce had this band called The Cult.
Yep.
I mean, not the cult. The Law. Excuse me, Bruce. Had a band called The Law, and Moses Moe from Mother's Finest was holding that other guitar spot, and I guess Mother's Finest decided to get back together.
Right.
And you were sitting in with them at Backtracks.
Yep.
The old Great Buckhead Saloon over there.
Every Monday night, right?
And you ended up getting a gig.
We they had the brilliant idea to be the only band playing on a Monday night, and we would all go because there was nowhere else to go, and they were great. And then they go, hey, if you want to sit in, why don't you play one in the last set? So we'd wait all night, and of course that was a good trick, and that's very Bruce. He's a smart guy. So one night he asked me, he said, you want to play? And I said, yeah. He said, we'll get some guys together. And so Rob was there, and I had a Gretsch guitar from the 60s because I was a Brian Setzer fan and George Harrison fan. And so we got up and played two Buddy Holly songs with a bass player and a drummer, I can't remember who it was. And in the middle of the 80s,
Right.
Aquanet hair, all that stuff.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Dippity-doo.
Yeah, we're playing Buddy Holly on a Gretsch through a Marshall, and Billy stopped me afterwards and said, Moe had gone back to Mother's Finest, and they were still trying to work out the guitar spot, and was I interested? And I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, yeah. I mean, that was like the Rolling Stones asking me. I was.
Yeah, that's a big
fan.
step. I mean, you get in a band that's in the thick of the scene like that. And I don't know what it is about Monday nights in Atlanta. Of course, the Satellites made Monday night famous at Hedgens. Sure. And then, of course, the Monday nights they were even doing it at the Great Buckhead Saloon with the Hellhounds. Right. We just did a gig Monday night at a club, and I'm like, why are all these people? What are these people doing?
It's the industry workers Friday night.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess so. So you played with them for a while, and that kind of ran its course. I mean, y'all were the victims of some other people's success. I mean, Billy got a gig with Michelle right after she got the Astra record deal, and Johnny Colt goes on to play with the Black Crowes, who go on to sell. Last check, the Black Crowes have sold 35 million records.
Oh wow, more power to them. They deserve it. 35
million records. Now, but you got to admit, when they got that record deal, nobody was thinking that they were going to sell. That 35. I mean, really, out of all those bands signed at that time out of Atlanta, they're probably the biggest.
Probably. I remember seeing the first gig Johnny played with them was in the parking lot behind Free Laros.
Okay.
On a Saturday afternoon. He said, come down, I'm going to play. And I went down there, and it was, there were 50 or 60 people standing around, and Robin Zander was there, walked up, and Billy and I were standing there. Billy was there, and so we were talking, and he goes, there's Robin Zander. And I thought, it is Robin Zander. And he comes over, and I'm watching him, and I mean, Chris was, even then was an astoundingly great vocalist.
Oh, yeah.
And he thought just unbelievable singer, but, I thought great vocalist. I can't imagine, nobody was counting on that to blow up.
Yeah. Well, they were also the first band to benefit from the Brendan O'Brien magic.
Gosh, yeah, that guy, yeah.
Another Tucker boy.
Absolutely, yeah, right, for sure.
So anyway, now, so you never stopped playing. You were playing the whole time, right?
Yeah.
And like I said before, I had 1990. I had been doing it 10 years, and I decided it was time to take a break.
Right.
Came back in 2004 and started playing. And I remember one of the first shows I went and saw when I started hanging back out was the Gasoline Brothers.
Okay, right.
Were playing with the Altar Boys,
right.
Rick and Peter down at the Vinyl Room at Center Stage. Right. And then it wasn't long after that I saw you playing with the Gasoline Brothers.
Sure. Well, Ray and I had played together when the Law broke up. Ray and Gregory had a band going, and Johnny Colt and I played with with those guys for a few months. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, again, it was like, in those days there were great bands. There were a handful of amazing singers in Atlanta. And Chris Robinson certainly.
Oh, absolutely.
And Ray, I just always thought, man, that guy.
Ray's an excellent country singer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I had hooked up with him again in the early 2000s and went to see them open for the Satellites, and just hung out a little bit. And he asked, Jack had gotten a gigantic career boost in the legal world.
Is that what happened with Jack?
Yeah.
I wondered what happened, because Jack's a pretty hot guitar player in his own right.
I think he thought he needed to pay attention to the district attorney's office or something.
I got you. Well, ain't nothing wrong with that.
I'll take the sloppy seconds and jump in there and play.
Yeah.
But so that was fun, and Billy was in that band, and David Piper and Brian Huffman, and we had a good run for a few years and did some great shows and great recordings, and just too, it's just, I mean, those guys, it's like, after 30 years of being around each other, it's just, that's golden to be able to still hang out.
Sure, absolutely.
That's a big deal.
And then, of course, you guys had some tragedy with the sudden death of Brian that nobody saw coming.
Well, no reason for it to happen, completely unexpected, and that was tragic.
Yeah.
I had talked to him that day, texted him, and he was excited about getting back and playing some shows.
It's just unfortunate, and it's hard to get the wind back into sales if something like that happens.
For sure.
I would imagine.
Sure.
So tell me how you wind up playing with Miss Michelle Malone. How did that come about?
So Billy and I had done the Gasoline Brothers stuff together, and I always had other bands going, and I booked myself in different things, and you want me to play your birthday party, I'll play that. You want me to play your wedding, I'll play whatever. I'll play whatever you want me to play for money, and so I had all the a lot of other stuff going like that, and Billy called me and said Michelle was going to get Drag the River back together for a union gig, and everybody wanted to play, and that Johnny D said had declined, and would I be interested in doing it? I was like, yeah, I'm just absolutely. I mean, there's no question. So she texted me a little while later and said, were you up for that? And I said, I would love to. That'd be great. So we rehearsed a ton, and I learned all of Johnny's parts, which was a good workout. That was a tall order, and we did that show 2 years ago, April, at the Vista Room, and sold out, and great night.
Oh yeah.
And did another 3 or 4 shows after that because it was so cool. And I had a recording session that I was doing a gospel singer from Macon who has this great Wilson Pickett kind of style, and we were making these like 60s soul records with him. And I thought, she doesn't want to do this, but let me ask. So I messaged Michelle and I said, would you by chance come sing backgrounds on this little demo thing? It's nothing,
right.
Pay you a few $100. And she said, I don't know if I could do it. I was like, oh, come on. And so we tried to do it, and it felt, the date got changed. She couldn't do it, and the conflict, and then it got moved, and she came and did it. And I had Chris Burrows, drummer in town, who I've known forever, and Robbie Hanley, tremendous bass player, and we were at Jeff Bezos's. And we would do it. The singer and I had gotten together before and worked out the song, so I'd go, here, let's do this song. I'd play it to Chris and Robbie. He'd sing it, and we'd slam out an arrangement, go in the other room, cut it 2 or 3 times live, and get a take, and go on to the next one. And it was great. And so she's there waiting to sing. And I said, man, we'll be done in just a second. Just, when we get you in and out so you don't have to hang around. She said, this is fine. And later, I walked out, and they were doing something, and she said, I want to do this for my album. And I said, oh, well, Jeff's place is great. She goes, no, I mean exactly. That drummer, that bass player, I want to do this.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I was like, well, me too.
So that's the group that played on Slings and Arrows?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that was just on the heels of the Drag the River stuff. We were in the middle of doing some of that. Right. And she had commented that she wanted to do a record, and she didn't have quite a vision for it.
Okay.
And that day she was like, just this. And so a couple weeks later, I said, we were booked for the first date, and I said, if you want to send me clips of the songs, I'll chart them out, because that's usually what I would do. And she said, I don't want anybody to have heard any of it. Just more cold than before. So we
no preconceived notions coming in.
No,
that's the way
she go slow or fast.
Yeah, and I understand that, because like with my guys, when I'm writing, they'll say, why don't you send us a demo of what you did?
Right.
And I don't do that.
Right, well,
because I don't want anybody coming in already thinking this is how it needs to go. I mean, I like to just let it happen.
Right.
And let the ideas come that way.
It was like that, and Chris and Robbie are both tremendous players. They're also Chris is a great drummer, but more importantly he's a musician that plays drums.
I got you.
He plays like a musician, and Robbie's that way too. And so we would listen to the song and try to come up. He'd go, what about this groove, and do all that, and we did it in 3 days. And it was
wow!
Completely. And she said, I'm going to take it, mix it with Jerry Hansen, and I've done Jerry forever, and they've worked together a lot. She said, I'm going to try to keep it real stripped. And I thought, people say that, and then they layer it and layer it and layer it, and she didn't. I was so happy when I heard it. It was like, this is what we recorded. And then Peter Stroud came and played on one of the tunes, added a guitar player.
Cheryl Crow's guitar player, yeah, wow.
Great. And it was done in a short period of time. So that was kind of the first big thing we did.
Now, I'm a friend of Johnny Daly, is a friend of the show, and he played steel guitar on my second and third record.
Sure.
And I just sent it over to him, and he did it at home and sent it back, and it was awesome.
Well, that's why, like I said, when I was working out all his guitar stuff, I thought, I probably know Johnny Daly guitar parts better than anybody else in the whole world besides Johnny Daly. So I'm a fan too.
So you also played with Steven. Steven was on the show a couple months ago.
Okay.
You know, and I know that's got to be a real fun gig.
Well,
Playing those Stone songs with such a great band.
Sure.
Steven does such a good job.
Oh, he's perfect. Yeah, without him, it's, anything. But and Bruce Smith has started playing in that band too, and Fred McNeil, who's just great at everything.
Yeah, it's an awesome lineup. And then you do the Rock and Roll Animals things every now and then. You do the Lou Reed tribute.
Well, I tell you, we did that the first time last summer, and we did the Rock and Roll Animal album. And Bruce was like, "I've loved this since I was a kid. I've always wanted to do it. You be the guy on the left, I'll be the guy on the right, and learn every note." And there's a truckload of notes, and it was a lot to learn.
Is that right?
Oh my God, it was just so much.
You know, I'll tell you something that you might not know is that Rick Richards, when he was on the show, told me that he was at the old bar Richards, which is over there where Midtown Art was now.
Yeah.
That he went to see Lou Reed there. And one of Lou Reed's guitar players was playing Les Paul Jr.
Oh wow, that's what they use on the record.
And that is when he
That's his
that is when he got fell in love with that guitar and started playing it. Yeah,
Well,
sure did.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce and I were like, all right, well, he had a Marshall, he had a high watt, so you be that guy. And
Because in Atlanta back when he was in the Satellites, there weren't many people playing Les Paul Jr.
Well, I remember the first Rob and I in the Pulse played at Neon's, and we swapped sets with the Hellhounds.
Okay.
And it was the week before the Satellites record came out. So it was like the biggest homecoming ever. And I had a little Marshall 112 amp, and Kevin Jennings pulled up for sound check, and I said, trying to be nice, I said, Rick wants to play through my amp. If that makes it easier, that's fine. He was like, yeah, no. He rolled that half stack in, and like the room was 3 feet deeper. By the time they got done, they started, I was like, what? Like, yeah, you can play through my little.
Yeah, well, loud's the name of the game.
Oh, I'm telling you.
I showed up at the Little 5 Points pub one night after a George Thorogood concert at the Fox, and the Hellhounds were playing there, and it was about 12 o'clock, and when I was walking in, they were walking out. They'd just gotten fired.
Oh, my gosh.
Because they wouldn't turn down, and Rick Price let the bar owner left him with a few choice words, and they were leaving.
Good night.
So.
That's awesome.
All right, so tell me briefly a little bit about this school you run in Newnan, musicology, where you teach students about music.
Right. So I'm from Atlanta and been here all my life. When Billy and Johnny left for Michelle and the Crows, Bruce and I were left, and we'd been playing for a living, and I needed to pay my rent. And I thought, I don't know what to do, and I saw a flyer that a guy in Newnan, which I did not know where Newnan was looking for somebody to teach guitar at a store, and I thought, well, I could teach guitar for a few weeks, get some money together, pay rent, and get the next band going. And a few weeks later, we had the next band going, and 30 years later, I'm still there. And that started with me teaching lessons by myself, and I went from doing, a handful a week to, at the most, I was doing like 80 or 90 a week.
Oh, wow.
Which was great and brutal. And in the interim, I also started teaching a guitar program at a private school part-time. So I was doing all of that, and then started playing back in Atlanta. And finally, in 2000, I just thought I cannot teach any more lessons. I had a waiting list, so I rented a bigger space, brought in more teachers, and then in 2007 I bought a building just off the square, and all the teachers came with me, and we opened as musicology. And there's drum lessons, piano lessons, sax lessons, violin lessons, 2 or 3 guitar teachers, voice lessons, anything and everything. And it's great. I mean, we see a few hundred students a week.
Wow.
It's been a great thing, and in fact, this is the 30th year I've been down there, so I'm going to do a 30th anniversary concert on June 22nd in Newnan, and Chris Burroughs coming to play, and Phil Skipper going to come play bass.
Oh, wow, great.
Do that, and so that's been, I'll say, when I think that was 30 years ago, it's just impossible.
I heard that. So you brought your guitar, you going to play a little tune for me tonight?
Sure.
All right, well, I'm just going to let you take that, and then we're going to go to a break, and then we'll be right back. Doug Keys, everybody.
I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm sorry.
So what, that's it? You're just going to go? Okay, go ahead.
You ready?
You ready?
Okay.
sorry.
So what, that's it? You're just gonna go? April, come back, come back. April, come back. Hello? Oh, hey, Jack. Nah, I'm okay, man. It's like I slept in the truck last night. Hey, you didn't happen to see April last night, did you? Oh, okay. I could tell you to tell her I don't give a damn. But this hurt is hard to hide behind the blue in these bloodshot eyes. So you just tell her I'm too high to cry. And this old bar's the only place that feels like home. Here I can fool myself that I'm not alone. Beneath the beam of a neon light, I sit here night after night, and there's no denying I'm too high to cry. Too high to cry, too stoned to care about what she's doing with who and where. Now when I come down, there may be a tear before it hits the floor. I'll be drinking beer and getting ready to fly. Too high to cry. I don't want her to know how I feel. That her leaving me is a big deal. Try to shake off as she's gone, while the jukebox keeps singing the same sad song. Too high to cry, too stoned to care about what she's doing with who and where. Now when I come down, there may be a tear before it hits the floor. I'll be drinking beer and getting ready to fly. Too high to cry. All right, we're back. We're back. Okay, for being a guest on the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show, my guest Doug Keys will receive a 6-month supply of Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, a case of Turtle Wax, and a case of O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer. O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer for those times in life when you only need to look like you're having a good time. All right, so we'll be back next month. I'm not sure who the guest will be, but we will have somebody. The Chris Massey Band, we're taking a little time off here, but we will be back July 5th, on Friday, July 5th, at the Moonshadowed Tavern with the Soul Circus Cowboys from Tampa, Florida. Always a good time when those guys come to town. All right, so we'll see you next time. All right. Woo. Too much fun.